Hello, hi. So lovely to meet you. We're actually from a fan podcast called Recall the Midwife.
Oh, yeah.
You are Recall the Midwife?
Yeah, we
I know Recall the Midwife.
Do you?
It is always on Twitter, podcast.
Yeah, I see you. Is it Jean?
Jen. She's actually our American co-podcaster, and she can't make it because she's an American.
J-double-N. So I'm going to
J-E-double-N.
look at me making a mess. You see the mess? It's I'm a mess like that. Like that.
Well, so I've driven from Cheshire to be here today.
Yeah.
But she couldn't come from America, so we just want to say we're
but that's
massive fans of yours.
What's her name? Is it Jenn?
Jen, yes.
Have you got video thing on there?
Well, we do. I've got. This is actually a.
Can you do a recording?
Yeah, you do a video.
Yeah. Jen, are you there? I know you couldn't. You haven't done it yet. Tell me when to go. Jen, I'm really disappointed that you couldn't get a bus from America to be here today. But I think what you do is really lovely, and hello, and I just wanted to make sure that we were able to say hello to you, and I knew you couldn't be here. So hello, Jen. And these two are saying terrible things about
Okay. But we also just want to say thank you so much for putting women at the forefront of isn't it? Women are never at the forefront, and you do women so beautifully from really bleak circumstances because we've read the books. Yeah. You know, it's amazing. So thank you so much.
How are you finding the podcast? Is it good fun to do?
It's amazing. Most of our listeners are actually.
I've done that one.
Have I done that one?
Yes,
Make sure.
No,
I haven't done it yet.
Most of our listeners are American, so we thought if we've got our friend, we all went to university together, we're all massive fans. So we've got most of our listeners are American. So yeah, it's
all over the world.
Yeah,
That's really lovely, you know.
Thank you so much.
And you haven't signed that one yet.
Oh, have I not?
Imagine not signing Becky's.
Can we have a photo as well?
Of course you can.
Yeah, come behind.
Come behind.
Hello and welcome to Recall the Midwife. You may be wondering what that clip was, and we will talk about that in a minute. But we just want to say hello.
Hello.
And we're just taking a little bit of a break in our hiatus to have a little special podcast for you here. I'm Alex.
I'm Becky. I'm Jen.
Yeah, today we are back for one special because me and Becky actually met Recall the Midwife, the team of HEIDI Thomas, the writer, and of Stephen McGann, and we met them at a book signing. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, we just want to give you a bit of an update on our lives really quick. The reason why we took a break. So Jen, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, we'd been kind of talking about this for a while, but we finally decided we just kind of needed a break because a few things in all of our lives were converging, and it just meant that we were going to be absolutely kind of snowed under with that stuff. So for me, I actually have just moved. I got a brand new job in a different state, and we're in the process of moving. The girls know this. We're selling our house. We put our house on the market this week and put an offer in on a new house this week. So, and I started my new job about a week and a half ago. We've been staying with family. So it's been just a really big life event. And I, for one, have been absolutely overwhelmed at many points.
The last thing you need to do is watch episodes of Call the Midwife and talk about it for hours with your friends.
Well, believe me, I would love to do that, but it has just been absolutely impossible to find the time. So I've been really grateful for the break just because it's been an incredibly busy time, and I am really looking forward to things slowing down so that I will have plenty of time to watch the Call the Midwife soon. But yeah, the break has been really important for me for that reason. And so I really appreciate all of you listeners out there understanding and giving us the time off, because we really want to do the best we can. And I certainly wouldn't have been able to give my best over these last few weeks. And I'm really excited to be back, and we're working on getting back to things now. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with me anyways, for sure.
Thanks.
Far less exciting. I've just been studying because I've got professional exams for my job. So yeah, I'm just in study hell, really.
I tell you what, she's just showed us a note. They are well impressive, ladies.
Yeah.
Well,
and she's kind of making it sound like, oh, she's just, taking a test for a job. No, girls, no listeners. Becky's a very powerful lady, and she's moving up the ladder, okay?
Yeah. And I thought, oh yes, I can have a bit of a break with my daughter over the holidays, working full time, all this. I took the opportunity to dislocate my knee. So I'm lying down right now. I'm really, it was a horrible netball injury. It was awful. I'm now on crutches and it really hurts. And it's been really, really useful because I can't drive. I can't get myself anything. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, just what you needed, right?
Yeah, exactly what I needed right now. So
although I do feel like you've been wishing for a a good hospital stay but it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, Stevie,
I am the world's worst liar downer. I think I'd be all right if I could just move. Like, I think I'd be okay. But going to the toilet is such a mission when you can't walk and it really hurts. It's just awful.
Yeah. Well, and you did ask for kind of, a hospital stay, not like being at home with all of your full responsibilities and having to do every single thing still, but just really laid up doing it. So
yeah, because it's been so busy at work and it was only me covering, so I had to go in, but I had to like get lifts in to work.
Are you gonna take any time off from work at all? Do you get to do
I'm gonna do it this week, I think.
Okay, good.
But so anyway, that's our life updates. Actually, they're actually all really quite not like the exciting part yet. I've not recovered. You've not fully moved. Yeah, but it's exciting, but she's not fully moved yet. She's in the eye of the storm still.
Yeah,
you've not done your exam yet, so it's just all we're all in the non-exciting part of it. But hopefully, when you listen to us next, we will be in the exciting parts, hopefully. I'm really hoping I will be.
Oh, yes. And we're very excited to get there. So don't worry, listeners. We are working towards that as much as we can.
Seamless transition. Speaking of exciting.
Can I set the scene for this? So I got a text from Alex saying, what are you doing on the 9th of September? And it was one of those situations where you want to know why they're asking you what you're doing before you fully commit to saying you're doing nothing.
How I feel about every plan that has ever been made in my whole life. Yes, exactly.
You should just be like, yeah, I'm free. So you should trust me.
At this point, we probably should, but no.
So we went to the Gloucester History Festival.
Because I saw online, because obviously we follow everything Call the Midwife with Recall the Midwife, and I do all the social media for us. So I was actually on the Recall the Midwife Twitter page, and I was reading your lovely messages, and I saw this thing about this Gloucester Festival where HEIDI Thomas was going to be doing a talk, and it was £10 a ticket, and I was like, OMG! So I just bought 2 tickets there and then. I didn't even think about it, thinking about if we were actually free or anything. I just bought them because I thought we can always sell them, but if they obviously for cost price, but we can always sell them if we can't make it. But it would be amazing, and I know that Gloucester's not too far from Bex, and it's not near to me, but it was 2 hours away. So I thought, well, it's worth it for this, especially if we get to speak to her.
I mean, the Queen, yes,
exactly. So, Becky, what did you say?
I don't know. What did I say?
What did you say in the reply to the text? Did you say yes or did you say no?
Oh, yeah. I said it was free.
So, the plan was set that me and Becky would meet in Cheltenham. No, in Gloucester. Honestly, I'm on so many drugs.
By the way, girls, I didn't get an invite, so thanks for that. That's really nice. No, I'm just kidding. I know I didn't get an invite. It's fine.
So, yeah, can you imagine that as well as all the rest of your stuff right now? Can you get on a plane and come over to Gloucester, please, for this one thing that we'll meet you for a day and then get back? Oh,
my word. I would have loved to do it, but she was,
Well, that's why we got the book signed for you. And we sent you a video, but that's spoiler.
Yeah.
So anyway, we planned to meet up in Gloucester to go to this. Now, luckily, it was like about 4 o'clock it started, didn't it? 4 till 5. Yeah. So it was actually quite good. It meant that we didn't have to get hotels or anything expensive or anything. But it was quite annoying because there was a massive bike ride going on, like the Tour of Britain going on, like a cycle ride. All the roads were closed.
It was about 30 degrees. We had like this mini heat wave at the start of September. We were both sweating. I mean, it was neither of us are good in the heat.
No, and there was no car parking spaces, so we just literally had to like try and abandon a car where we could find a parking space.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrendous. But then we parked the cars, we ditched the cars, we rang each other, we got to each other, and then we went into, it was absolutely one of the hottest places in the world, wasn't it?
It was. So I think before we like fully get into it, so we haven't spoken to, we had a message that we sent to Jenn while we were there, but we're basically going to catch up with Jenn now and just talk to her and you guys and just fill you in on our day.
I've heard nothing about this, so I'm very excited.
But just before we update you, I'm just going to play a clip of me and Becky just after we'd met HEIDI Thomas and Stephen McGann, just to show you how excited we were. So I'm just going to play that clip. This is Alex and Becky, just straight after meeting Stephen McGann and HEIDI Thomas. We're just buzzing, aren't we? Yeah. Becky's a lot more shy than me. I don't know if you've noticed from the podcast, but that was so ace, wasn't it?
It was. And I thought I was going to just have to shrink away and wait outside, but I did it.
Yay! It was brilliant. So let's set the scene, Bex, where it was.
So it was in Blackfriars Priory.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. The buildings were absolutely beautiful. I'll put some pictures on our Instagram as well. I've put some stories kind of alluding to it, but we will do an actual post on it once this episode's out.
Yeah. So we met up. We were both like, we need to get a cup of tea and a cold drink. So we just walked into, I mean, we were parked right by town, but we walked into town and we found this little chapel. It was like a chapel, was it?
It was like a church, like group coffee shop.
It was like a side room off a church. Because when I went to the loo, you saw the rest of the church. But I was like, this is so on brand for a Call the Midwife get together.
Oh, I love it. And now
it was genuinely said that in there.
Yeah.
This is before
it was basically
to the thing.
There were pews, there was like a big Sunday school banner on the wall.
Oh my God. It sounds like the parish hall where they do the clinic in the first couple of seasons of the show.
It was exactly like that.
It was posher than that, but yeah, it was like that.
Oh my God. And this is before you went in and met Stephen McGann and Heidi Thomas.
Yeah.
Before all of that. Okay, gotcha.
So I'd never been to anything like this before. Now Becky she'd been to a few history talks. She kind of knew what to expect. I didn't really, but I was thinking, I really hope we get to ask a question at the end.
Yeah.
And Becky was thinking the exact opposite.
I was like, I do not want to speak to them. When we got there, we were waiting outside and they were in there doing a sound check. And then Heidi Thomas and Stephen McGann kind of walked past us and we were like, oh
my goodness.
So it was so exciting.
As I was also like, I don't want to speak to them.
It's nerve-wracking meeting like real celebrities.
I know, but
I think you'll find from the clip played before, I was not nervous.
No, you're never
Alex
nervous,
was not nervous. I was like an embarrassed teenager. It was like... You know, when there's a teenager and they're just like cringing at their parents.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like the whole time. Alex was desperate to ask a question and she kept putting her hand, like she was literally like putting her hand up, like she was practically out of her seat.
Oh my God.
I was thinking, please don't ask. Because Alex was going to, when they did the question, she was going to say, like, we're from We Call Midwife in the middle of this hall. So I was like, please don't pick Alex. Please don't pick Alex. The people behind us were like
really?
Because they wanted Alex to get a
right now Becky is miming that the people behind them were like holding their hands up and then pointing at Alex as if to encourage.
My hand was up the second, and honestly I was really annoyed because the first person they picked, well, we'll get to this because obviously there's the actual talk and stuff they spoke about, but the first person they picked was someone that they'd already spoken to beforehand, so they knew that person. And then the second person they picked, they were going to pick me first, and then that person put the hand up. They did ask an all right question, but it wasn't as good as mine. And then this other girl behind me. So that was a really depressing question. Great question, but still depressing. So I was a bit like,
wait, what was the depressing question? What did she ask?
It was about abortion.
Oh
and that's not a nice way to spend your Saturday afternoon.
No, that's for Sunday nights when you watch Call the Midwife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, so they then announced after the talk, after the fact that I was disappointed that we couldn't do that we could actually go and meet them if we bought a book. So we rushed off to the bookshop, bought the books, and then got in the queue.
Now, what books were they selling?
It's a book that, hang on, because I have mine to hand.
Well, there was the the one they were really pushing was the Dr. Turner's case book, which is the newest book, but they sold out. They only had like 3 copies. So they sold out of that one. Yeah.
They only had 3.
It's the behind the scenes Called Midwife, A Labour of Love.
Now, Jenn, one of those is for you because the one I got signed for Jenn. So that's going straight to you.
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Yeah, and also this as you'll hear on the clip, he wrote your name wrong, then crossed it out. Then
that's so Dr. Turner to do that. That's so Dr. Turner to do that. Be like, oh crap, and then and listen.
But also,
these books look beautiful. So if you want to invest, they're beautiful looking books. I will say that.
But also, he was like, "Do you guys want a photo?" And I was like, "No, thank you."
And I was like, yeah, I've got a photo of me looking bright red, so hot.
You look good.
I don't know if this is on the clip, because he was like, do you guys want a photo? And I was like, no, thanks. And I think he was a bit like, all right. And Alex's joke went, she's not a fan. I was just like, no, I just don't like having my photo taken.
I meant you're not a fan of having your photo taken, not a fan of
him.
Yeah,
but it came across as I'm not a fan of his.
God, it's so funny. Oh my word.
So anyway,
okay, go ahead.
Me and Becky then went for an Indian afterwards to decompress and we got all excited. And then we made some notes.
Okay, now do I get to ask questions, or are you going to say all your notes first and then I'll ask questions?
No, you can ask questions.
Okay, so first off, what was the question that you asked to them?
Well, I didn't get to ask
your question.
Oh, do you want me to tell you mine? No. because they just picked up other people and it was really annoying, and she was relieved and I was really angry. But then we were relieved because then we got to meet them, so it was fine.
Okay, so what question would you have asked?
So, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
This is my question. Are you ready? Right, let's pretend we're in that hall and I can actually stand up.
Yes.
I would say, hi, I'm from Recall the Midwife podcast. We're big fans of yours.
Uh-huh.
My question is that most of our listeners are actually American. Have you ever thought about doing an American version of this, following an American midwives, doing historic research from American history to do with midwives? It was a lot more succinct than that because I had it written down.
Yeah. Oh, girl, that's a great question.
Thank you. I know.
Well, we'll never know the answer.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay.
Someone asked about AIDS, if they're going to bring AIDS into their thing. And I'm like, well, that was in 1981. So no, because it's 1960s.
Yeah, I was like, you got a lot of ground to cover, like at least another whole nother decade before you get there, if we're going to do that.
And that's what they said. We've got to assume that the show is running for another decade before it even gets to that, which Alex was a bit scathing about. She was like, that's a wasted question.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you know what? The other question I thought would be good is the question about like how we've talked about in our was it listener special or something about going back in time? You know, like would you ever want to do a Call the Midwife prequel? That would be another question I'd want to know.
That was my other one I had in the locker.
Yeah, because like I would love to see like young Sister Julianne, young Sister Evangelina, young Monica Joan, you know, all of those girls.
Well, I think it might get to the point where they have to kind of do that because obviously midwives, being nuns, so many people just give birth in hospitals now, and the NHS has kind of taken over the nuns role. But I just really don't think they couldn't go to 2023.
Oh no, I mean it well, and the thing is the Nonatus house changes so much over the years. Like at a certain point in the real life, the nuns had to leave London, you know, so like how would that get handled, and all that is another question.
Well, Alex didn't listen to the answer to that question because she was too busy trying to get her question asked. But the answer to the question about whether they would ever cover AIDS was that two of the nuns, which were part of the order on which the nuns of St. Raven Nonatus is based, they actually did go into nursing, and they did kind of move away from midwifery, and they did actually nurse some of the first AIDS patients. So it would actually be, it sounds wrong to say on brand.
I was going to say on brand as well, but yeah, it would be connected to the Nonatans is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But the thing is, their tradition is so rooted in helping, you know, everyone, even the people that other people don't want to help, you know, like that they never turn their nose away from someone who's, you know, sick. They patient first always. So
also just a quick note as just a recommendation, if anyone's not seen It's a Sin, the British TV show about AIDS, 100% recommend.
It's a really good show.
I just wanted to put that in there while it was relevant. To be fair, the question about AIDS was actually he spoke about honestly, I am so drugged up right now. I do apologize, everyone. Yeah, so he did actually mention that with Dealey and everything. So it was a good question. I am joking.
Yeah. So now what did Stephen McGann and Heidi Thomas like talk about before the questions period started?
So firstly, Stephen McGann said, if any of you don't know, we're actually married. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And I looked at Alex as in, did you know that? And she's like, yes.
So we did know that.
Yes, we did know. I was horrified. I was like, Becky, we've spoken about this. We do know they're married. Like I was angry. So I was like, what?
remember how they're like always together? Like, remember when she got her OBE or whatever from the Queen, and they went together
with him and their children, yeah,
and we like posted the photos on Instagram and everything, and he was so excited and looked so proud of her and all that. Yeah.
No, I don't remember that, but anyway.
So wait, do they have kids though? How many kids do they have? I
think they've got 2.
Oh wow. Are they? So they've been married for like 30 years.
Yeah, 33 they said.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, love it. Yeah. So anyway, so they said, if anyone doesn't know, we're married. Okay.
So they said when they started Call the Midwife, they didn't realize that there was going to be a Christmas special each year. So because there is that Christmas special, each series has to kind of run across the calendar year.
Yeah.
So as they've kind of all the storylines have followed on, they have to kind of do research around each year and kind of events that happen within that year.
It was really interesting because obviously this was a history tour, and it was basically about the historical context of everything they do. And I don't think I realised, like we really do appreciate how amazing the writing is, but I don't think I realised as much. Like I did think they were quite meticulous with historical accuracy and stuff, but I don't think I realised how meticulous they were with the history. And Heidi herself, exactly. Like they were talking about the different research they do and the different Bex, you've got them down.
So obviously Jennifer Worth's books, they've only come into the first 2 series of Called the Midwife.
Yeah.
So Heidi Thomas does research. So there were two places which she mentioned. So there's a Wellcome archive, which is Wellcome with a double L, if anyone is going to look at it. So that's kind of an archive of lots of medical information and medical pamphlets. So a lot of the medical storylines that come into Call the Midwife. Also newspaper articles, newspaper archives. So those are kind of the two principal sources of material that she researches each time. And then obviously, like, she knows obviously for the coming series what calendar year they're looking at. So they just look around kind of what events happen in that year.
What illnesses and things. So people write to them and ask them to put different illnesses in to give like a highlight that issue. I'm really sorry, we can't, because that wasn't until 1965 that pandemic, or that, like, they're very meticulous on it.
Really?
And also she was talking about prams. She was talking about the prams, Bex.
Well, because
leaving them outside, like how we've always said.
No. Well, they did mention that, and that everybody was aghast that these prams are just being left outside buildings and left outside shops. But they were like, that did happen.
Yeah. But people are messaging in being like, I think you'll find that pram didn't have that liner until 1973 or stuff like absolutely ridiculous. But she's like, well, we can't use, and we are aware of some of these things, but we can't use the original old dirty liners in prams with brand new babies who it'll be a health risk too.
Yeah. Well, and also like I've seen this with, because I, as our listeners know, like I love makeup and stuff like that. And like, stuff that is from that time, I mean, it goes bad, right? Like certain things just aren't possible to be using anymore. You know what I mean? Like they've been banned, you can't find them, things like that have happened. Not everything, but like certain stuff, there's like ingredients and certain things that aren't available. So, I don't know, I'm sure. Wow. But you know what? There's always those people who are so meticulously detail oriented or from that time and they remember what it was like. And so they can write in. I mean, wow.
She spoke about, they had, on this subject really quick, their props person went off for a scan because she was pregnant. So it was very on brand for Call the Midwife.
Yeah.
And they had a roast dinner scene and they put broccoli on the plates and she wasn't there to say, hang on, they didn't have broccoli then.
Wait, they didn't have broccoli in the 60s?
No. So they had to.
Well, I think, did they not have broccoli, or it wouldn't have been part of a traditional Sunday dinner?
I don't know, probably wouldn't have had it, I reckon, around there. Wouldn't have been that free and easy to get, like, just off the market or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, they changed it. They changed the colouring because it was still on there and they'd filmed so much of it. And Stephen McGann had eaten his as part of the scenes and stuff. They had to put the saturation down. Yeah, they couldn't edit it out, so they put the saturation down to make it look like cauliflower.
Oh my gosh.
That's how meticulous they are, is my point.
Wow.
And when I was listening to this, I was thinking, oh my God, are people paying that much attention to like the props around them? But in the upcoming series, I am going to mention a prop, so watch this space.
Well, what's funny actually, because like to think about, I mean, I don't think of that show as being like a very like special effects heavy show, but we've joked a few times, like remember the Megan Maeve episode, we were like, oh, they couldn't afford 2 actresses, so they hired one, or then they didn't have enough CGI budget or whatever like that, which was all a joke, obviously. But I guess they really do actually have like a lot of, post-production that they have to do to kind of, if they catch certain things like, whatever. And I wonder if they do kind of do like certain special effects and stunts and different things, like especially with the births would be my guess anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's wild. Did Heidi Thomas say if she does all the research herself or if she has any help?
She did not mention that.
It was very much, he said that before the series is about to start, her head's in those books, the archives. So it did make me feel like she did a lot of it herself, if I'm honest. Like, I'm sure they will have teams of them, but she's obviously very, very at the forefront of it all.
Yeah. Wow.
But I think Stephen McGann said that there were some topics where he'd done a lot of research. So was it around I can't remember if it was the contraceptive pill or the legalization of abortion, but he'd done a lot of research around that topic.
Yeah. It was legalization of abortion, wasn't it? And also about his family connection as well.
To what?
So I'm jumping ahead here, but he spoke about a story which was true in his family about the fact that his mum had lost twins.
So let's talk about the scene in Call the Midwife. So do you remember the scene when there is the train crash? So this is in one of the latest series. And the lady loses the baby and the baby is buried in a coffin because of someone else. Because the baby couldn't be
buried on its own at that point.
Yeah, and the same with April and the the twins and the baby April had died, and she had to go into a coffin of someone else.
Yeah.
So this is based basically on the fact that he had two older brothers, Joseph and John, who were twins, but they had died, and the mum had, like, they'd never been born, like it was a miscarriage kind of thing, but very late on, like stillbirth.
Oh, okay.
And the mum was encouraged not to talk about it. The dad was told not to talk about it, just try and change the subject.
Yeah.
So she had real unresolved grief over it.
Yeah.
And so for years and years, as it carried on, she'd gone on to have four more sons. So, life was going on and stuff. But then she was a grief counsellor, Beck? She was doing lots of other amazing work with people. Yeah. And then she just found herself absolutely screaming, crying over some babies, and didn't really realise where this was coming from. And then obviously it all came to a head. It all came out why she was suffering this way, so that she needed to find some kind of resolution. And then she found the grave of where her boys were, and the family that had let the babies be buried with their members.
Really?
Let them put the boys on a gravestone there as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But it's all about that, and also that helped someone else as well. Sorry to go on about this story, but he also said on Twitter, someone was like talking about it, spoke to him about it, and he found his brother somewhere in Leicester because of it as well, because of this storyline. He didn't realize you could do that, and went and found out where his brother was buried.
Really?
Yeah.
So there were records kept to kind of say, what happened to so that they were able to track that down.
Yeah.
Did Steve McGann say if that kind of brought his mom a lot of peace, that she was able to feel better after that?
Yeah, okay. It was really good for it. And then she carried on helping people in that area as well.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, the thing is, this is what it was really like, right? I mean, these stories really happened to all of our families. And, a lot of times because of the way that culture worked back then, with families not talking about things, and still some families are like that now, you just wouldn't know. I mean, if you were too young, you wouldn't have known what happened. And if you never
also
were in a
speaking
situation
about family, HEIDI Thomas shared that her brother in real life has got Down syndrome. And so the Reggie storyline is obviously very close to her heart.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So these are things that we wouldn't have known if we haven't gone to this talk, Bex.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why she wanted to have that character in the show, to kind of show how life was for that person.
And for representation.
Yeah, definitely. It really matters. It really matters a lot.
And then there was another storyline that they talked about. Do you remember? So this is again in one of the latest series. There's a scene where a husband and wife are driving to hospital, and they have a car crash, and she dies.
Oh, I remember this very well. Yeah.
Dr. Turner has to perform a cesarean, which actually, when we get to this, you'll find like Alex had to look away because it was a lot, that scene. And I was thinking, oh, this is a lot. But that storyline, through HEIDI Thomas's research, there were 4 occurrences of a post-mortem C-section being performed within a 2-year period. So like as more people had private motor cars and were able to, obviously, they weren't having home births. Obviously, that did happen, which I thought that was quite shocking.
Yeah, me too. But also it does show you, like, we're thinking, oh, that's a bit far-fetched. These things this is how meticulous they are. These things have happened. That's just their representation of them.
Yeah. Well, and girls, like, never forget. I mean, I don't know what the exact timeline is of this. I think it's too late for the show, but just in America, just like in Britain, the advent of car seats and everything was because of bad things that happened, because there weren't enough kind of protections in place. I mean, even seatbelts were a thing that didn't
1986
happen kind of
seatbelts were in the UK. Weirdly, I know that off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean,
that weirdly, I know that Volvo invented the 3-point seatbelt.
Yeah.
And instead of patenting it, they didn't put a patent on it because they knew how important it was for safety. So they wanted all their competitors to be able to use it.
Oh, this is not an ad, but buy Volvo.
For Volvo.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I've got no connection to Volvo.
We haven't been sponsored by Volvo.
I've got an emotional one to them now.
If Volvo wants to sponsor us, we are always looking for sponsors.
Yes. We are open to it. So Volvo, call us.
I'd quite like an automatic right now because I can't drive. So if a tall automatic would be amazing for me.
There we go. Just putting it out there in the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so very interesting how those things kind of, I think about any child that's in our lives just being free and loose in the back of a seat of a car, and oh my gosh, it makes me shudder, but that used to be the norm. That used to be how it was.
we come from a generation, and our younger listeners will probably be like, I can remember as a child just being shoved in the boot of the car because there were too many people in the car, so someone had to go in the boot.
Yeah.
You mean like not like the trunk where they closed?
Yeah, the trunk.
The trunk
where it was dark and everything.
No, it wasn't a closed in one. There was like a parcel shelf. So they would take that. So I was in the car. I wasn't like a kidnap victim.
We used to do that. To be fair to us, we used to sit in car seats the wrong way round. So the car seats would be facing back out and we'd be waving at like people on the motorway.
Or I'd be told to like sit on the passenger's knee.
I remember being in the footwell of the passengers.
Yeah, the people who lived across the road from us, I think they had 5 children, and they used to put 4 on the back seat and 1 in the passenger seat footwell.
Oh my gosh. I will say I never sat in the footwell, but in our car, we had a station wagon growing up. And so we would sit in the back seat and we just had like lap belts at that time, so that when we were old enough, we did those. And, I'm sure we were just kind of in my mother's arms when we were babies and everything because of when we were born and stuff like that. But then we had like, we called it the way back, and we would go to the way back and sit there whenever the car was filled, like the kids were always the ones who were in the way back. And then we would just kind of be tumbling around in there, you know what I mean? And sometimes it would be just me and my sister. Sometimes it would be, whoever, my cousins, if we're all together and we were all driving somewhere together. But yeah, kids were always relegated to those seats, just to kind of like not real seats, basically.
Yeah.
And just so funny to think about that.
I will say for my dad, because if he won't listen, but I'm still going to do this. None of these times were ever with my dad. My dad genuinely went and he got some seat belts that were bright red, and he got them imported to bring over here to make sure they were in our car seat.
Really?
And he got us booster seats when we were little as well. We were really unusual. So I will say,
wow, that's very, very well done to him, because that is very unusual. I never knew anyone who had car seats when we were little.
I think it's because he knew how bad Mum's driving was.
Oh my god.
So I mentioned at the start that they kind of researched any events that were happening during the year that they're filming. So one of those was Enoch Powell's speech.
Yes, okay. Rivers of Blood.
So
remind us who Enoch Powell is again.
Enoch Powell was a Conservative MP who did a very famous, it's called the Rivers of Blood speech, a very famous racist speech, basically trying to blame all the ills of society on people coming over here and taking our jobs, kind of thing, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
So this storyline, do you remember, again, this is one of the most recent series.
Yes.
Cyril and Lucille, and they're listening to the radio on the speech, and then Lucille gets very homesick.
Yes.
And very scared and very emotional.
Yeah.
So they were saying that if there were actually was it the dockers and the meat market workers?
Yeah, it was.
So in the episode of Call the Midwife, they marched on Parliament, and if they hadn't have done that, that might have been more of a background story in the episode. But because it was so relevant to the East End, and obviously there was that reaction within the East End, it had more prominence.
And if I'm remembering correctly, the people who marched were in support of
Enoch Powell,
Powell. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And also what they said was, so the actual speech on the radio, not all of it was played. Like, it was really weird cut the way it was played on the radio.
Because it was such a long speech.
Yeah, but they made sure that only the bits that were actually played on the radio were played on the TV show. So Cyril and Lucille could only hear, like, in historical accuracy, they made sure that only those bits were played. Also, they had all the signs. They had photos of all the signs that the actual dock workers and everything had. And they did replicas of those. Some of them were so vitriolic in their hate speech that they didn't actually do them.
Yeah, they couldn't make them onto the show.
But point being, that's how much they try and stick to fact.
Wow. Oh my goodness. True dedication. Yeah.
And they were saying, like, because it sounds like they're getting negative feedback just around people being really pernickety.
Quite a lot of it, they said, since Twitter and stuff.
Oh, sure.
So they were saying in the episode where it's the World Cup, there's lots of Union Jacks everywhere, and everyone was like, oh,
typical BBC.
Typical BBC, just showing Union Jacks, you're not showing the England flag. So the England flag being the St George's Cross. And Steve McGann said, like, if you look back so they actually, I think they say they reposted this on their Twitter. They actually reposted a picture,
and it was just Union Jacks
from
everywhere.
The stadium. Yeah, and it was just Union Jacks. There was like one St George's Cross up in the corner of the stadium. So yeah, it's absolutely, they're so meticulous in the detail. So touching on the negative feedback, one of the other things they mentioned was, and it sounds, Jen, like Heidi Thomas gets a lot of written letters, and it sounds like she always tries to write back to people.
Oh, Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So you should write to her, Jen, and but you could ask your question about the prequel, because I would like her to actually do that.
Oh, okay.
But make sure you say, I'm from Recall the Midwife. My two friends came to meet you.
Yes. Well, I'll have to, you guys will help me find the address to write to her, and I will definitely do that. I would love to do that.
You are good, Jen. But for people who don't know, Jen is very good at letters.
I get it from my mom.
Becky, actually, both of you are very good at letters. I'm the only one who's not good at letters.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I'm good at social media. Hello.
You're good. You have lots of other
She
wonderful
is excellent
skills.
at social media. If it involved us writing to each of you personally, me and Jen would be on fire.
Yeah, we would do that. Maybe if we get a Patreon, we'll
offer
that.
Don't I? Anyway, sorry, carry on, Beck.
Yeah. So they were talking about, we touched earlier about how Stephen McGann, it was around the legalization of abortion where Stephen McGann did a lot of research, and he kind of read a lot of the transcripts from the parliamentary debates and things. But that HEIDI Thomas was saying that she gets a lot of letters from fundamentalist Christians in America, just because they're so outraged about the portrayal of abortions.
Wait, in what way?
Well, the fact that they're even mentioned on screen.
Yeah.
Oh, the fact that they're even depicted at all.
Yeah. And then they get a lot of questions about, like, why aren't you putting forward, like, the pro-life view?
The whole show is pro-life, okay? So let's calm the roll down on that one.
But they were saying that actually, until abortion was legalized, there wasn't a pro-life kind of movement, because it was very much kind of backstreet abortions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So they was basically saying that the reason it's not represented on Call the Midwife is because historically and factually, it wasn't a thing. So that's why it's not represented, because it would be absolutely untrue to the period that the drama takes place in.
Yes.
And I think
also, sorry, I'm just gonna do this because, as our listeners know, I can never get off the soapbox. When I made the joke about the whole show is pro-life, what I mean is there are plenty of representations on the show of people who are having children, whether they want them, whether they are planned, whether they are excited about it, whether they are married, whether they are unmarried, whatever. There's a lot of depictions of people who are having children under every situation you can imagine, and going forward, and doing really amazing with it, struggling, but then finding, there's the myriad examples of people who choose to go forward with the pregnancy and do that is rife. And so just that is what I meant by that. I was not making a joke about pro-life or whatever like that, but also this is not a new opinion, but someone wanting a person to be able to choose their reproductive future does not mean that they are anti-life. Okay, so the idea that you can be pro-life or anti-life with in the opposition, that's a binary that exists, is a fallacy in and of itself. So just to say, like, someone wanting to have people have choices is not a negation of their desire to have life exist and to have things go forward in that way. So yeah, I just had to say that.
Well, you pro-life is listening.
Well, it's a complicated issue, but the fact of the matter is that, like, there are many lives at stake in these choices. It's not just one life, okay? And sometimes that gets lost, and I feel like listen, anyways. So just to say, I'm grateful that they're doing the work.
Well, they did say that some of the feedback that they got was, how can these nurses and the nuns in particular kind of condone abortion? And they said it's not so much that they condoned it, but that was the situation that they were confronted with. That it is what happened. And they mentioned a speech that the Bishop of Southwark did, where he was against abortion in principle, but in favour on the basis of the harm that it was doing to young girls who were having kind of backstreet illegal abortions and, like, essentially being butchered.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
they spoke about examples about, they knew that when abortionists came into these smaller towns and places, they used to come from London to the smaller towns, and then basically A&E would just be absolutely packed full of women nearly dying because of it.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen on the show already that we've recapped some really, really terrible health situations that women that they make in regards to trying to end a pregnancy themselves. And
again, now we know they're all based on true facts as well.
Yes, 1000%. And I think what's really tough in terms of the conversation is that whether or not you make abortion legal, illegal, or any combination in that spectrum, people are going to need to end pregnancies. They are going to need to end them. And there are as many reasons for why you end a pregnancy as there are people making that choice. And so just to say, oh, well, we're going to, outlaw abortion and it's just never going to happen ever again is completely missing the whole reality of the situation. And also, I just think if you understood why people are making certain choices and why people should have the right to make certain choices, then it also becomes a different conversation. So, you know, they show that in the show very well. And I would hope that even if your opinion doesn't change, at least the show helps you to understand the humanity and the complexity of the choice that is being made in that direction. So,
well, I think the thing that really stood out to me, and I don't know you, Bex, it's probably the same. When I never realised, I'm a big Call the Midwife fan. Like, we've done a Flamey podcast on it. I've seen it so many times. We've now read the books. You know, we're learning all the time about it. But I think the thing that really stood out to me with this talk, and obviously it was about history, but I did not realise how much research went into making sure it's as accurate as it can be. How it's painstaking, the research they've gone into to do it. And I just think that is so admirable. I think it's amazing because they really take care in telling people's stories. And I just want to mention one thing that HEIDI Thomas said. So she, at her local church, you know, that there was a storyline recently. It wasn't that recently, but it was one of the later series about a family. They went back to the family. It was a redheaded woman and she had a stillbirth. And then they had another baby and she was called Audrey.
And you might remember from the storyline, they lived next door to each other. There were two women having babies at the same time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And one of them, there was a stillbirth and it was just really awkward because obviously then she could hear the crying from next door. And the husband had been in service overseas and had been part of kind of the nuclear testing around that time and had been exposed to kind of radiation. And that's what led to the stillbirth. And then there was another... there were other storylines around kind of birth defects.
Yeah. So this is the whole reason this storyline actually happened is because at HEIDI Thomas's church there was an old gentleman there and he was wearing this badge. Did you write down what the badge said? It was like nuclear family.
So it was a badge on his lapel for the British Nuclear Trust, and it was basically kind of the families and survivors of servicemen
dealing with the literal fallout of the nuclear testing that these British men went through. And it was never really, they said it wasn't really a big storyline in the news because obviously thalidomide kind of took over, but they really wanted to highlight it because she found out all about it from this guy at her church. And I just think how amazing is that obviously she does so much research and stuff, but this is just from a personal thing. But I think that's my point being, what I'm trying to say here is that I think there's a real warmth to this show that shines through. And I think a lot of it is not just because of the meticulous detail, not because of the books originally. I do think there's a lot of personal details and personality because of that comes from HEIDI Thomas and obviously Stephen McGann and other people as well that obviously is on the writing team. But I just think that's so amazing that just one small encounter, one tiny little badge from someone in her church has led to this big storyline in the show that's really dealt with sensitively. And I just think it's amazing. And I think that just shows how good this show is.
Well, and also anyone who cares about this more than us, it's HEIDI Thomas. And I will say that.
And also the feedback that they got from the families of those men and how they were thankful for how they were depicted. Because now, obviously, the gentleman that HEIDI Thomas encountered was an old man, but these were kind of men in the prime of life. And that's what they said as well, that they can depict them as they were and how all these young men were kind of affected by it.
Yeah.
Well, she is so respectful and so compassionate to everyone. Whether you like them, quote, like them on the show or don't like them or, you know, agree or disagree or whatever, she never kind of makes a caricature out of anyone. And that is really hard to do. And it shows, you know, it just shows in everything because it just makes you, you know, really, anyway, it just makes it so, it just is a whole different experience.
When we met her, I should be embarrassed about my ramble about loving the fact that she's put women at the forefront because I was just like so in awe of her. I just wanted to say to her, like, we just love it so much.
Yes.
Like, it's just, we love it so much, but I couldn't be so visceral with it. We love it so much.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, you put women at the forefront and that's amazing. And I did sound a bit woo, but I'm just so glad I did say it to her because I just think it is so amazing and she does such a good job. And I think she might have been we were in a queue of about 20 people before us, weren't we, Bex?
Yeah. And I was very self-conscious.
Well, you shouldn't have been. But also, I'll tell you what was annoying, Jen. We would have been well early because I was so hot in there. I thought I'm going to have to sprint out or I'll faint.
Yeah.
She literally did sprint out. I apologised to some women that she sprint past. I was like, I'm really sorry, she's on a mission.
I genuinely thought I was going to faint. It was so hot. And I'd just been trying to have my question asked. So I was a bit flustered.
I thought she was just making a beeline for the queue for the book signing.
Well, that was a happy coincidence because that did happen. I made a beeline for the queue, but then the card machine didn't work. So we were then like 20 back. We would have been like third in.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And nobody has cash these days. Like,
I know.
No one.
Like maybe a little bit of cash, but not.
Well, I have no idea because I have not yet met Heidi Thomas in person like you guys have, but I have to think that she makes this show because she loves it. Obviously, she loves, the whole, material and everything like that. But I bet you there are a lot of people who come up to her and tell her, things, like you've just said they do, and like us who are huge fans. And I just have to think that is really what kind of makes it extra special and worthwhile because, we've talked many times on the show about how we've not really lived through what a lot of the women on this show have lived through because, culture has changed so much in our time. But we still just feel so grateful that she has made a show for us. And actually, as evidenced by our young listeners, there are women who are really young who are watching the show and taking so much from it. So, I mean,
also, I think for women above us, like our generations above, my mum and place, they remember these times as well. So it's special for them too.
Big time.
And we've mentioned that, like, when we've been going over a kind of a storyline and things. But when you mention our young listeners, Jen, based on the age demographic that were at this talk, we're young watchers.
Well, between Call the Midwife and a history lecture, then yes, I would say that.
We did feel pretty young though.
Yeah. Then we went for an Indian. We were basically Tom and Barbara.
We were. It was lovely. We didn't have milk though.
No, we didn't.
Milk at the end.
I was totally Barbara to Becky's Tom.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's fine because your fate is sealed. I'm going to go on and remarry and propose with my grandmother's ring.
Oh, savage. Oh God, that's so funny.
Now, if Stephen McGann or Heidi Thomas are listening, I apologise if we've misremembered any details. Feel free to contact Alex via social media.
Oh, feel free
and
answer. Yeah, feel free to come and have a lovely.
Us.
Yeah,
well,
love that. Also, anyway, if anyone does actually listen, who's on the show, like makeup artists, casting, props, that's another big one. We'd love to listen. Literally, we'd love to speak to anyone off the show. That would be amazing.
Do you know, it really made me think because, like, the props people had to make the banners for the march and things. It just makes me think I wish I did that job. Wish I worked in a props department or visual merchandising.
You'd be brilliant at that.
You would be really good at it. Yeah, you would be good.
Also, do you know what I thought about with the signs? Now, this is a bit too finicky maybe, but I thought, did they have to use paints from around that time to make it look like that? And materials?
I don't know if it needs to go that far.
Than markers, but I wouldn't have thought they used like lead-based paints or whatever they used in those.
No, I'm sure they don't have to go back and find like the toxic chemical that they used back then to do whatever.
Well, maybe that's why I'm not good for that part. I'd be thinking too much.
Yeah. You're too detail oriented.
Yeah.
So that was our day out, Jen, but you were missed.
Oh man, well I am so the listeners are hearing a lot of this for the first time. I'm hearing it for the first time. I am loving it. They say never meet your heroes, but clearly we don't have that problem. Like they sound as
there was he literally forced us to do a video for you pretty much. You'll hear it.
Yeah. I heard
you got the video on the day because we were so excited, and obviously we've got the book signed for you, so I will send that through to you. I'm gonna read through it first, but
that's fine.
It was just so exciting.
Our first piece of meal.
It's just made me excited when you come over and we do the Call the Midwife tour.
Oh golly, I can't wait. Well, and I just absolutely fell over when Steve McGann said that he'd heard of us off of Twitter and things like that he knew we did, and I was just like, oh, wow, could we not have any more of a seal of approval than that? Like oh my God, I just absolutely adore that. Like I love it. And I mean, it gives me this like tiny thing that like maybe people do listen to us, maybe people from the cast or the crew listen to our podcast.
Well, I can assure you we definitely do get listeners because I go through all the messages and stuff, but also we've added adverts so that if people listen to them, any money that we get from these adverts is going into an account for Jen to come over here so we can do the tour together and then do a podcast together. And obviously we could do meetups or whatever with people if they did want to come and on the tour with us. That'd be amazing. But obviously that's in the future.
Yeah, and I will
listen to the adverts, please.
I'll be really awkward if we do meet anyone in person.
But that's part of your charm.
Exactly. And Alex and I know this is what has kept our relationship together for 20 years is that the special Becky energy that she brings to things. It's so sweet. It's so sweet.
Oh, it's true. Girls. Everyone's, that's your thing. my thing is blurting out how I love the representation of women in front of people. That's just how we roll.
Yes, exactly. And I just can't help being American. It's my personality wherever I go. So, I just bring that energy to everything. I'm kind of like a very eager golden retriever in a lot of ways.
Yeah, an American one.
So we will be back in a couple of weeks with the book review of Shadows of the Workhouse.
Yeah. Yes. And is that a two-parter? I think that's a two-parter.
Yes, that's two-parter.
Right? That's two-parter. Okay. And then we're going to be back for series 6. So only a couple of weeks and we'll be back.
And I don't think we yet have a date as to when we're going to start, redoing our episodes, but we are working on it and finding a timeline that works for all.
We've got some in the locker, but we miss you all. And we just had to take a bit of a breather for our lives because obviously, this is free. If you're complaining, jog on. So
but we're still reading comments and things like that. Oh, we miss you guys.
With you too as well. I've missed it.
Yeah, we miss it a lot. We're very eager to get back. So don't ever worry that we're not going to be back soon. Aw. Well, girls, it's been so great to see you and talk to you. And I love hearing about this and seeing the videos and the photos and everything. And oh man, I'm just so excited.
I'll do more shares on the social media. You might even see my face. I might let you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The Stephen McGann video is so good. It's just me looking really awkward and hot. And not in a good way.
It was so just for our viewers,
boiling.
It was just so hot. Alex has got a fringe. Those two things are not conducive.
They do not combine. So yeah.
Fringe and
at least I could walk then. At least I wasn't put me a leg up.
Yeah, listeners, this was just prior to the knee discoloration.
Do you know what? So. When you messaged to say what you'd done, my first thought was, thank God you didn't do that last week.
I know, I wouldn't have been able to go.
No.
Or before your daughter went back to school, because imagine if she'd been off from school and that had happened. Yeah. So, I mean, even like just as an example, like I was sick. I'm still getting over it, but I was sick last weekend and I had to drive back to my house in North Carolina and then drive back to Virginia where we're moving to. And we had to do all this stuff to get the house ready to go. It was a nightmare. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got sick now. I can't believe this is terrible. But ultimately that timing wasn't the worst thing. And even though it feels like that at the time, things, I don't know what point I'm trying to make here. It's never good to be sick or laid up or anything like that, but you just deal with it when you deal with it, and you try to make the best of it. So
point being, time passes. Heidi Thomas does an amazing job, and so does Stephen McGann. So the whole Call the Midwife team, and I'm just I tell you what, I'm really glad we went because I really feel like it gave us a better insight as well into it all.
Yeah. Well, this is the kind of stuff that we always are so curious about. We speculate about all the time.
It just made us appreciate it more, and we already appreciate it. We're already at peak appreciation, but now we're even higher.
Yeah. Oh man, so cool. On that note, girls, I love it.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon for the Shadows of the Workhouse episodes. So thanks for listening, and subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, everything.
Yeah. Bex, you had a finger raised. Do you have anything to say?
Or by post.
We
don't have an address.
If you want me and Bex to write you a letter, let us know. We'll work out the details.
No, what we'll do is send us your address.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah,
do it on Instagram. Send us your address. They've both got beautiful handwriting too. Man looks like a drunk spider. They've got beautiful handwriting.
Yeah, and we will hand some letters to our beloved fans and listeners.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.